Welcome to What in the World, a project initiated by Hungry for Life International. Today's podcast is titled The Compass, Vision, Mission, and Values, and Jess will be interviewing Dave Blundell. So grab your headphones, sit back, relax, and listen as we talk about why the vision, mission, values conversation is the most important one an organization can have.
Hi, and welcome back. It's been, I want to say a hot minute, but that's so Gen Z. It's been a while since we have seen you guys. We're so excited to be back. We have a special podcast today to announce a few new things that are happening around Hungry for Life.
Yeah.
So, of course, the person to introduce the new things, we have Dave back in the hot seat. We have a different not venue. But we're happy to be back. And today we're talking about our new vision, mission, and values that we have drummed up for Hungry for Life. So here we go. Are you excited to do a podcast again?
Let's go. Let's talk about
Or is this a waste of your time?
No, this is great. I enjoy these conversations. This is an important one.
This is an important one.
Yep.
Yeah, we've done a whole big, not a restructure, but like a kind of, how would you describe what we've kind of been doing over the last few months?
Refresh.
Thank you. A refresh.
Yeah.
Yeah, your brain works. Mine doesn't. That's why we paused the
No, it
podcast.
does. It just works on different things.
It does work on different things. Really good at talking to children, maybe not adults. So bear with me. So vision, mission, and values. Let's establish what those are first.
Yeah.
Let's talk about that. What's the difference? I think people probably often get confused with the difference between vision and mission.
Yeah.
Can you explain the big difference between those two?
For sure. First of all, there's nothing more important to an organization than understanding its vision, mission, and values. These are the compass statements that filter all decision-making, all programming, all communications. If an organization isn't clear on what it does, where it's going, what guides the behavior, then really they'll flounder and they won't grow and they won't have the impact. This is like one of or the most important conversation that an organization can have and be clear on. So super important. Difference between vision and mission is if you think about the way I would describe it, a mission is what we do every day. Like when we come to work and what we do. Like the mission is also like the purpose of the organization, the reason we exist, what we do when we come to work. Usually starts with two statements or action or verbs that describe what we all do when we come to work. So mission is what we do. Vision is to what end are we doing it?
Okay.
So where are we going? What's an ideal picture of a preferred future? Every nonprofit exists because there's a problem in the world that they want to address. Something's not right. And a group of people get together and say, we're going to change that. So a vision is if the current situation isn't right, and there's a problem we want to address, what is the ideal picture of a preferred future then, if we fix the problem? So think in terms of 20, 30, 50 years from now, and we've had a wildly successful, impactful run as an organization. What's changed in the world because we existed? And so mission is what do we do? Vision is to what end we're doing it.
Okay. How exciting was that for you to sit down and drum that up from day one? Was that pretty fun to just like sit there?
It was super fun.
Yeah.
It was super fun because one of the things that we processed at the time was, why do we need another organization? Lots of people doing humanitarian aid and international relief and development. Why not join one of them? That's where vision comes in, because we had a different picture of a future that we wanted to create, and we had different ways of getting there from other organizations. So it was super fun in the earliest days to sit down with some of the board and the key staff and create a picture of what we want the future to look like if we've had a wildly impactful future.
So that was 20 years ago, just over 20, right?
Yep. Yeah. It took a while to refine it. We had some preliminary conversations and it wordsmithed over time. But yeah, that was about 20 years ago.
So when you sat down and talked about the VMV, if I say VMV, that's vision, mission, values.
There you go.
It's just a lot to say, so I shorten it. Did you look like what was your projection as far as years? Like 20 years? Did you have that in your head? Like, yep, at 20 years, we're going to do a refresh, or
when it comes to vision and mission and values, your vision isn't something that you should change very often, because if you change your vision all the time, that means you're going in different directions however often you change that vision. And so we knew that once we had set the vision 20 years ago, there was going to be very little we were going to do to change that. And it shouldn't change often. Mission should change on a more often basis, because what you do to get towards that vision might change based on circumstances in the world and all kinds of other things. Same with values. So when we first talked about where we saw ourselves in 50 years, I asked the question, if the HFL staff now are in our retirement homes and we have a reunion and we sit around and we're looking at the world that exists now because we and others have had an amazing run as an organization, what's happening in the world? And so therefore, we were talking 20, 30, 50 years from now. I guess we'll be long past our retirement homes in that time. But this was also 20 years ago. Yeah. We were looking long-term.
Yeah. Can you recite them from the top of your head? We're going to talk about the old vision, mission, values. I'd be so impressed if you could state all of those by heart.
There's no way. Vision, I totally
20
can.
years you had to memorize it. 20 years.
Our values and our mission changed after 10 years. So that morphed.
Fair. I mean, 10 years is kind of a short time to memorize something.
I'm not a great memorizer. But our vision was something that a lot of us could recite, and we said it much more often. We used it much more often than our mission and values. Although our values were used often when we came time to making decisions, they weren't something that we memorized. But our vision is we envision a world transformed by a global movement of compassion and justice, evidenced by the eradication of needless suffering.
You got that bang on. I have it right here, folks.
Yeah, that was pretty. I think our original staff
lived and breathed
that, and we embodied that. So that was our initial. Our mission changed, and I'm not even going to take a really good stab at it, but it had to do with cultivating. Nope, that's our new one.
Shh, don't give it away yet.
Okay. We'll just leave that alone.
Okay, so the mission, I'll put you out of your misery.
Thank you.
We seek to inspire spiritual vibrancy and facilitate opportunities to know Jesus through worldwide compassion.
Thanks.
Yeah. I know you knew that.
Yeah, I did.
Yeah. But also so the vision was we envision a world transformed, blah, blah, blah. And then after that, there was a few other talking points, which we have now shortened a lot of.
Yeah, we've shortened a lot of that and combined them into some of our values.
Yeah. Then our values. There was 8 of them. Can you name, I'll give you kudos if you can name at least 6 of the old values.
Yeah, no problem. I can name all 8 right now.
Okay, go.
Yeah, here we go. Kingdom priority.
You can't look at your notes.
I just realized I have them on my iPad. Kingdom priority. I don't know if you want me to explain them, but basically this test had to do with the fact that we talked about that the kingdom of God addresses both the spiritual and the physical in the world. We talk about prayer, that we are reliant on the power of God to see anything change in the world. We talk about spiritual life. So spiritual transformation results in social transformation. That was pretty key to who we were and still are, is that we believe that when people's lives are changed spiritually, that will result in social change. International partnerships. So this had to do with creating long-term partnerships between groups here, churches and groups here, and our international partners. We valued care for people. So we didn't want to just see our staff and board and churches and groups here in Canada as a means to an end. But what God was doing in them was just as important as what God is doing in other countries in the world. Relief and development was a value, stated value then. We talk about our activities meeting immediate needs, but also long-term sustainable development. We valued direct engagement. In other words, rather than going to churches and groups and saying, give us your money and your people, we'll go get the job done and send you the video. This was something that made us very distinct from other organizations, as we fostered direct engagement between churches and groups here and and leaders and groups in other countries so that they built friendship and relationships together.
Mm-hmm.
And then the 100% principle, I think we said transparent giving, which for us was the 100% thing.
Yeah.
100% of project dollars will go to projects.
Right. Out of the 8 of those, is there one that you're most proud of?
As I'm saying them out loud again, I'm actually proud of all of them.
Yeah.
They reflect on, those were the distinctives that really caused us to say, we need a different organization because these were not distinctive to many other organizations. Some of them more or less so, but for example, the 100% thing was pretty unique to us. Direct engagement was very unique to us.
Right.
And so, yeah, I'm proud of all those. And they're still, as we refresh them, they're still there.
Yeah. Yeah, they are. Just in a more brief form, I would say.
Much more concise.
Yeah. Okay, so why now? Why do a refresh 20 years later? What was important to you about that?
Yeah, there's a few things that were important. Organizations change over time. We learn new things. The world changes. Priorities change. Best practices change. And so one of the also just because the ones that we had before, nobody really, I mean, we knew what the vision statement was, but the mission and the values, well, the mission in a sense wasn't really helping to guide the organization. We also felt that the statements were a bit too wieldy. They were a bit too many words.
Okay.
So we thought we could say it in a more concise way and a clearer way. I think the why now answer specifically is the realization that how the role of local leadership and the role that leadership plays in international relief and development. And that didn't show up anywhere in our old statements.
Okay.
The word leadership, I don't believe, was in any of those statements before. And over the last 20 years, us, as well as the relief and development sector, has come to realize that 100% of the success or failure of projects is based on who the local leaders are that we're working with. The term now that's used often is localization.
Okay.
So
is that a buzzy term in the industry right now?
Yeah, it is a
localization.
Localization of leadership.
Yeah.
And that just simply refers to the fact that most of decision making, most of the authority, the direction is set by Western development agencies that aren't local. We don't know, and we would refer to localization as we just hired local people to do our job for us. However, that concept of localization has progressed far beyond that, where local leaders are the ones who develop their communities. And our job should be to serve the local leaders rather than the local leaders serving us to carry out our priorities in developing countries. That's a massive shift, a positive shift. That HFL is actually on the front edge of that because of how we have had local leaders running projects in developing countries for the last 20 years.
Right.
And so nothing to do with that priority showed up in our old
Right.
vision, mission, and values, and it needed to.
Okay. It's not necessarily that it was a miss, though. It's just the world is evolving, and like the sector, as you said, has been evolving, and yeah, I
Sure.
would. Or what do you think? Was it a miss, or was it just?
Well, it's a learning, and
Yeah.
an adjustment needed to be made.
Yeah.
And so we could call it a miss in the sense that we always wish we would have done things differently.
Sure.
But based on what we know now and the learning that the positive trends that are in the world, we need to adapt to those realities. Because I read something recently that says nobody can develop countries apart from their own people. And the role of external funding and external expertise is only valuable insofar as it supports what's going on locally and the local leaders. And so that shift or that realization meant that our compassing statements needed to reflect that priority, and they didn't.
So that was kind of the push for now.
Yeah.
Yeah. Cool. I mean, my next question was, how is your mindset different then versus now? But you kind of just explained that, just different timing, needing to focus on localization, which is becoming hotter, I guess. But do you want to explain a bit more of your mindset back then versus approaching the refresh now?
Yeah. The mindset back then was essentially, and I'm going to use kind of older terms to describe this.
Sure.
Was we talked about the ownership of the project being with the donor group years ago, because they're the ones raising funds for the project. So we want them to feel a sense of ownership, which is still the case to a degree. We want them to feel a sense of ownership, but the real ownership of the projects is with local leaders. They're the ones on the ground, know the culture, know the situation, and should be the ones that are leading change. And so rather than working through local partners, which is what the terminology that we used before,
right,
we wanted to move that terminology to working with.
I love that.
Those local partners.
Yeah.
And so that was the major mindset change that happened. We need to serve them to accomplish their vision and goals for their communities, not the other way around.
Would you say a lot of nonprofits are also attaching themselves to that concept, or are people still kind of using the term we work through people? I don't know what I'm trying to ask, but is it still kind of like a mindset that has to catch up?
Yeah, it is.
In a general sense?
It is. However, more and more organizations are realizing it, but few organizations know how to go about it.
Okay.
And so as I'm talking to leaders of other charities on a regular basis, they know localization is an important thing.
Yeah.
Nobody disagrees with it.
Right.
It's, well, what do we do to localize?
Okay.
What kind of leadership exists locally for us to localize decision-making and authority and responsibility for the projects? And so the big question now is how do we localize? However, going back to the intent of your question, there are some organizations that still like that hero mentality, paternalistic mentality of we're going to go out there and save the world. And we have the money and the expertise. We know better and they don't. And so we're going to go out, and you can see that in how organizations brand themselves and how they market and even if they are branding and marketing in a way that respects local leadership, organizations are trying to figure out how to make the local leaders the center of attention and us supportive of them, rather than have local people be supportive of us in our efforts.
Right. Okay, so what culturally, now kind of talking back here in the office here, corporate culture, what was different about this go round? Like what kind of cultural shifts did you need to, as a leadership team, need to consider when approaching a new VMV?
The big cultural shift, especially because we've had so many new staff who weren't connected to that process and that founding vision, mission, and values process, was rather than, because at the beginning it was just a few of us. That's all that Hungry for Life was.
Yeah.
And so it was just a few of us that were involved. And we did a good job embedding our vision into organizational communication for 20 years.
Yeah.
This time, the major cultural shift was we needed to involve everyone. We needed to have all the staff, the board, involved in the process.
If I were in your shoes, I'd be like, oh, let's just have a secret committee with nobody's opinions except for like-minded people. I know, don't hire me anywhere else, but but like that. So that's kind of you to include the whole staff. But why? Like, why do it? Why invite all those opinions? And I mean, you've explained to us why, but I want our listeners to know why you went about including so many different people and so many different opinions in the process of creating this vision, mission, values.
So what did I explain? Well,
you explained it gives us more agency. Like, it gives us more buy-in to the work that we do. We are excited to, like anything, if you have a say in decision making, you're more likely to put more effort into whatever you're doing. And you've done a great job at that. I feel like everyone here has felt included in the process, and it's been a really interesting and fun process to walk through. I use that word fun. I need a new word other than fun. Like I said, I talk to children most of the time. I lost my train of thought. That also happens often. But so that's kind of where I think all of us staff have felt very valued and appreciated, and collaboration always brings unity. And yeah, what do you want to add to that?
Yeah, it is scary to open up the most foundational conversation in your organization.
What if it gets hijacked?
What if it gets hijacked? And one of the things that we did was to keep me out of that conversation, to keep me out of the center of that conversation. We brought in an outside facilitator who really helped us walk through that. And I was just a participant. And that did require this is a sacred part of the organization. And so to open that up was scary. However, I had done some thinking about what our new vision, mission, and values might be in my own brain.
Okay.
And what we ended up with was far better than some of the ideas that I had come up with. And without going and explaining the whole process, because it was a whole process, the involvement because we have a staff team now of 25 to 30, I think 29 now. And when we engaged in this process several months ago, the realization is we've got staff with far more experience than I do in different aspects of the organization. And we needed those perspectives on what we were going to be about. We've got leaders who are more involved in the field than I am now. And we have lots of perspectives that I don't have. And those perspectives were vital to really work through some of these things. And even to help explain things in a way that newer staff could understand and engage with, because the newer staff were involved.
Yeah.
And so...
Yeah, Lydia, that was like one of your first meetings. I remember that. Lydia's in the room with us.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So it was just important to have everybody involved. So that was the difference in the process this time from last time that I think was so fun. Was
there a point in time where you're like, oh no, oh no, oh no? When ideas were getting thrown out, you're like, no, this is good.
I think there were times where I'm like, I wonder where this is going to go, or maybe, I don't even remember specifically what they were, but I think there were times where I'm like, that seems to be going in a direction that feels weird to me because it didn't sound us.
Okay.
And so my job at that point was mostly to shut up and let the process play out.
That's a hard thing to do, Dave.
Yeah.
I tip my hat off.
But there were some conversations, like when we got into the wordsmithing phase. So with a whole staff, we had them involved in the process, the initial process. And then we took the concepts and then we worked through them with a wordsmithing team. That became a little bit more difficult because now we have to settle on phrases and words that fit us. And so that was a really beneficial phase, but it was also a more difficult phase to get to that place.
Yeah.
But we did get to that place, and we're on the same page as to what those statements needed to be.
I think it's a miracle that 29 people came to a consensus.
Plus the board.
Yeah. Oh, and they count for like two people each for their opinions. I'm just kidding. We love our board.
No, they don't.
They're great.
Yeah.
No, there's more staff who you could count for two people each.
Yeah, probably. But everybody had a say.
Yeah. Yeah. I loved being part of that process. It was interesting and fun to see play out and interesting to watch differing opinions. We're all very different. And to see that come together in one sentence for our, I'm not going to give it away. It may or may not be behind us. For our vision, our mission, and our values.
Yeah.
Wow. I think that alone is a big accomplishment for 29 people plus our board.
Very cool.
Yeah. Can you say them off the top? This is another test. Can you say the new ones? This is the big reveal. Don't screw it up.
Yeah, for sure our vision statement. And I love how this ended up.
Okay.
Because it was simplified and it resembles our old vision statement. So it's got echoes of our old vision statement, but said in a much more concise way. And it's, we envision thriving global communities.
Mic drop. just that. I love that.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And those communities are, I don't know if you want me to explain much, but what I love about that is rather than the us and them, like the global north, global south, the developed and developing countries, there's a recognition that we all need development spiritually and socially. And so we all need to grow and we all need thriving. And so the concept of we envision thriving global communities, it could be a church, it could be a business community, it could be any community here in the West that thrives more because of their posture of generosity. And then we envision thriving global communities all around the world as a result of these partnerships that we develop. And so it puts us all in the same place, that we all need to thrive, whether we live here in Canada or we live anywhere else in the world. We all need thriving, and it puts us all in the same canoe.
And it's 1, 2, 3, 4, 5 words.
Is it really?
5 words.
Yeah. It's pretty great.
My brain loves that.
Yeah.
Okay, what about our mission?
Yeah. Mission is we support leaders who cultivate spiritual vibrancy and human flourishing. How'd I do? You
didn't even read that.
I didn't.
I was looking at my notes. I didn't realize you weren't looking at yours.
Nope.
Way to go.
Thanks.
Hi, again. Took my hat off. Okay. I want to focus on the word leaders here for a second.
Yeah.
Because it's a big thing.
It is. That's a big change.
We've talked about this a little bit already in the last 10 minutes. But talk us through the mission statement here. Why we support leaders to cultivate spiritual vibrancy and human flourishing.
So in our big all staff day, where we collaborated on what we do, because remember, mission is what we do every day.
Yep.
And so when we really honed in on what do we do every day, we looked at everything from booking tickets to writing project proposals to finances to social media. Like, we just listed all of the things that we do. And obviously that they all can't go into a mission statement. And then we thought, what's common among all of those things that we do? Who do we do them for? And then we realized that every day, pretty much the whole organization serves leaders. We serve business leaders here in Canada, church leaders here in Canada, community group leaders here in Canada. School leaders, we work with leaders here. Our project managers work with leaders of organizations all around the world. So the people that we come to work to serve every day are leaders. As a result, people in churches and businesses here become impacted. People in developing countries get impacted. They're the indirect beneficiaries of the service that we provide. But what we do, we talk with leaders and work with leaders all day long.
Yeah.
Those are when we get up thinking, who are we coming to work to contact? It's leaders of organizations.
Exciting.
And so we thought, what are all those things that we do for leaders? Tickets, finances, social media, videos, project management, writing proposals. How do we summarize that into one thing? Yeah. And the best word that we could come up with is we support them. We don't do it for them. We support them. And whether those leaders be in the Dominican or whether they be here in Canada, we support the leaders as they cultivate spiritual vibrancy and human flourishing. So it's not even us directly going around the world cultivating spiritual vibrancy and human flourishing. They're the ones that are doing it. They're the ones that are on the front lines of cultivating spiritual vibrancy and human flourishing, and not us. So we support them as they go about the direct work of spiritual transformation and social transformation. So that's how we came up with that we had that realization, and that's what caused us to come up with the word support and leaders as they go about cultivating spiritual and social development.
I love that. I have this image in my head of just us doing our little busy bee work here in the office, and meanwhile, globally and local, like everywhere, like the exponential impact because we have leaders' backs. Like we got them, and like we're supporting them, and I think
love that.
It's a really cool thing to be a part of.
And it's further supports the localization concept.
Yeah.
That we're serving them to do the job, like I explained earlier, rather than them helping us to do our job.
Values 1, 2, 3, 4. We have narrowed it down to 5.
Yeah, we have.
What was not important? What did we get rid of? I'm just kidding. I know we did not get rid of. We umbrellaed a few.
We umbrellaed a few, and we worded them a little bit better.
Yeah.
Spiritual transformation stayed. So we say our motivation is the love of Jesus. We work with him to build his kingdom. We believe in the restored credibility of the church, evidenced by justice and compassion.
That's very similar to.
It's very similar.
Yeah.
And even incorporated some of those qualifying statements in our old vision.
Yep.
Our old vision statement.
Vision?
Vision.
We're
That's a
getting
combination
confused
of
here.
vision and mission.
Vision.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So we want to see the restored credibility in the church, because the church here and around the world is engaged in the world's most pressing needs. And we believe that the church taking a front and center role in that will help breathe life into the restoration of the church. Transformational relief and development. We added the word transformational there because of the fact that we don't just want physical relief and development. It's not just about going around the world with our expertise and knowledge and going about science and technology that brings about relief of suffering and community development. But we want to see relief and development activities that lead to the transformation of people's lives spiritually, socially, in their communities. And so combining transformational with relief and development was really important. And the next one, localization of leadership. This is where we landed that one pretty solidly, that we just put those words in there. And the way that we explain it is transformational servant leadership develop their communities. Our commitment is to work alongside and support these leaders. So there's leadership theory built into this one that people might not pick up on right away, and it's transformational servant leaders.
Okay.
So we believe that leaders who lead like dictators, top-down hierarchical leaders, won't develop their communities. We know that. We've seen that around the world. The research shows that. Our experience shows that. But when leaders become transformational servant leaders, transformational meaning inspiring, motivating, caring for their people. Servant leaders refers to a leader who serves first before they attempt to lead, cares for the community, develops the people that they're working with, empathy, listening, all of those skills that are involved in servant leadership. So we have transformational leadership, servant leadership, two distinct leadership models that we believe together create the right kind of, those leaders create the right kind of environment for the community to take ownership of their projects, get involved, which leads to community development.
I feel like we need another podcast on that.
That would be a good other podcast.
Can we do another podcast on that? You guys have that? I'm just kidding.
Yeah, we'll make time.
Yeah.
People and relationship focus. So this, we held on to this one pretty solidly. We reworded it. Everything we do puts value and care for people first. All of our work is done through the strength of reciprocal relationships. And so that carries the idea of we're going to care for everyone, that we're not using people towards a relief and development end, but the people, everyone involved in the process is valuable to us. And the strength of reciprocal relationships speaks to the fact that when we impact people's lives overseas, they impact our lives. And there's a mutual interdependence there that we've often said for years. It goes back to that social transformation results in spiritual transformation, and spiritual transformation results in social change.
Yeah.
So those are reciprocal relationships. How many times have we heard team members go on trips, come back and say, oh, I was way more impacted?
Like every single
like
one of
every
them.
single time. So that's reflected there.
Yeah. Does that sometimes mean that you have to put in your head logical outcomes aside?
Sometimes, and pay attention to the process and the people. And when we pay attention to people and process, we'll often see the results take place. But it's important not to, especially to go into international relief and development with predetermined results or outcomes, because we're not in control of all of the factors that we need to be in order to ensure that we get the results that we want. So got to pay attention to people and process along the way.
That's also a hard one for maybe just people like me to totally understand.
Yeah.
It's like people first always.
Yeah.
I'm learning more and more in life that relationships mean more than results. Yeah.
And the last one is financial transparency. This is the 100% thing. I remember being in the room with all of our staff, and I think I asked the question, how many people would object to us changing our 100% model? And I think every hand in the room went up. Almost every hand in the room went up. But it was, that's a mean, these are all bleed and die for issues, and
Yeah.
this one was so pronounced.
Right. I remember that.
Yeah, we're not changing that. And after 20 years, because that commitment costs our staff
It does. Yeah.
who raise support and volunteer for us to make that commitment. And so, in a sense, it was a very selfless commitment that has just been enculturated into the life of the organization. And that's not changed. That wasn't going to change in the
It's a
reiteration.
pretty exciting one.
Yeah.
Yeah. Yeah. So those are the 5.
Yeah.
Okay. Last question.
Mhm.
I mean, it doesn't have to be the last question. Last question on my question list. Have we changed? Have we
That's a
as an
great question.
organization changed through all this?
For sure. For sure, we've changed in so many different ways. And the essence of who
Yeah.
we are,
Yeah.
the essence of who we are and what we were about from the beginning hasn't changed. How we go about it's changed. We've learned things. We've adapted. We have new staff. We have new knowledge. We have new relationships. As the world changes, we need to change as well.
Mm-hmm.
And so part of this process of refreshing our vision, mission, values was embracing that need for change.
Yeah.
But what we've come up with now is remarkably similar to where we started 20 years ago.
It is. Yeah.
I think that the major change, if you were to say, what's the change? We're about all the same things we were before. We've just added and expanded and took on this new priority for localization of leadership and a focus on leadership development that needs to be a part of our global work. And so that's the most significant
Right.
change that's taken place
Yeah.
in this. And I love where we ended up.
Me too.
Awesome.
Yeah. It was a really cool process to be a part of. And you're going to hear more about this. This podcast is kind of the initial, like, here you go, everyone.
Yeah.
But you'll hear a lot more about this, I think, even at our fundraiser, which is November 8th. Mark your calendars.
Save the date.
Please come. It's going to be fun. Anything to add to that process, or anything important that you want to convey about this whole refresh? Or you're just happy with where we're at?
Yeah, I'm happy with where we're at.
Okay.
I think our team's excited to be on the same page.
Yeah.
About where we're headed and some of the changes. We, as I said earlier, we haven't lost who we are. We're just more focused.
Yeah.
About how we go about it.
Yeah. Cool. Well, thank you. Also,
You bet.
if you are watching this on YouTube, please take note of this beautiful piece of art that TJ's sister Janessa, right? Janessa did with our new vision. Mission.
Yeah.
This is the vision.
That's the vision.
5 words. It's amazing.
We envision thriving global.
You should everyone who's watching should commission her because she's very good.
Yeah, it's beautiful.
Yeah. There we go. Anyways, thank you for listening. Maybe you'll hear more from us. Maybe you won't. That's to be determined. See you later.
I think they will.
Yeah.
Yeah.
There you have it, folks. You heard it here first. Bye.
Thanks for listening to What in the World, where we seek to educate and inspire. Here at Hungry for Life, we are passionate about your group having a positive impact in thriving global communities and human flourishing. For more information, head over to our website at hungryforlife.org, and you can find us on Facebook, Instagram, YouTube, and wherever you may listen to podcasts.